Hi there, and welcome to our webinar today on QA processes and how to start as a. Okay, with us today we have three speakers. Michael Tomara, who works for TestFort, Oleksyn, who works also for TestFort, and one of our guest speakers today, Jessica Mosley, who works for TrustCloud. So, thank you very much for joining us, as I say, and say to our audience out there, we will be going through, a series of questions. I will be your facilitator for this today. If you have any questions as we go along, please can you write them in the chat, and we will cover them all at the end. In the event that we run out of any time, we will 100% answer all questions, but it may not just not be as part of the webinar. We will follow up with any questions that we don't get an opportunity to run for. Okay, without further ado, let's make a start. Okay, first question. Mikhail, what are the benefits of ensuring that QA resources have visibility of a project from day one?
First of all, it helps a lot with getting rid or preventing future problems, and defects is only a part of them. Because first of all, QAs may participate in testing, in analysis of the requirements. They may find gaps or contradictions, and this might just allow to improve requirements before the work on the features even starts. Then the next benefit is that the earlier QAs get access to the requirements, to the information about the product, to the knowledge, to the process of knowledge sharing, information sharing. The earlier they will be able to create the test coverage, to think about scenarios, about edge cases, and it will allow to start testing quicker.
Okay.
Um,
Jessica,
if I could,
let's bring you in on this one. What additional thoughts have you got on this topic?
just wanted to add a little bit. It also
Sure.
sets the tone for how everything will go going forward. A lot of the times when you start with the quality process or start with involving the quality team early on, you will have where quality is kind of like the forefront, and it's a mindset that kind of starts to filter through the rest of the chain. You'll see that a lot of people just, take a little bit more time or collaborate just a little bit easier when you bring in the QA process. Just to me, the sweet spot would be ideation, kind of like the design mock-up sort of thing, because they start to say, as Michael said, that there are edge cases that pop up or use cases, journeys, and things like that that never were thought of when the initial idea was brought to the table.
Okay. Taras, any additional points you'd like to add before I jump in?
Yeah, I'd like to add some test automation flavor into this,
Sure.
as I'm the test automation guy here. So test automation processes is also part of the general QA processes, but there are some stages where you can introduce that into the SDLC where it makes sense, right? So if the project is just evolving, if nothing is stable, if KPIs, UIs is not stable, and you're gonna introduce test automation at that point, you're going to spend a lot of efforts maintaining this automation and catching up with the development train, right? But I agree with you guys, like the general QA philosophy should be there at the start and should be incorporated at the beginning of the development process. And nowadays we have these things like shift left strategy, where organizations and projects and people starting to realize that we want to have QA as early as possible, because you'll get more benefits out of it, right?
Okay. One additional key one that I'd like to add is if you all start together, you all have a common understanding. You are in sync, and that ensures cohesion for the overall project. If you bring testers in later, they're playing catch up. and it's not necessarily so good for the overall working on a project. It builds better relations and it ensures better communication collectively. So from my perspective, that's just an additional one. That's my ex-project management hat as they're coming out there to ensure that, as I say, that one's definitely not missed for you guys. Okay.
Yeah, definitely. I think the goal here is to create that kind of philosophy that QA is a shared effort, not just some stuff that the QA team does, but
Completely
everyone
agree.
should be interested in that, right? So the dev
Yeah.
team, the managers, and the stakeholders, everyone's involved.
Yeah, completely agree. A project does not occur in isolation. It comes together when, as I say, a collective group of people have a common goal. How can you have a common goal if you bring one of the parties to the table late? Yeah, so you need to ensure that everybody is on the same page and you're all going towards the same common goal. So completely agree with that one. Okay, let's park that one there and move on to our next topic. Okay. Jessica, let's start with you on this one. What do you believe are the most important steps in QA through the software development lifecycle that need to be conducted to ensure the best approach?
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Okay, what do you believe are the most important steps in QA that need to be conducted to ensure the overall best approach, maybe for industry standards, for example? Yeah.
One thing is, I know this sounds silly, but understanding the platform that you're going to be testing, I find that to be one of the steps that is usually left out a lot of the times because the bigger picture is taken on. It's like, what strategy should I do for this?
Yeah.
What use case can I use for this? How can I automate it? They kind of go deep into it without actually knowing the particular product that they're going to be testing and its intention and the outcome and that leaves out a lot of areas like such as user experience, frustration. And I believe that is an area in QA that can be expounded upon and thrown into the tool set myself, along with, of course, test strategies and test metrics are wonderful. One thing that I think is overlooked as well is, I guess it kind of goes back to the user stories, but the test cases, like what is going to be your map in going through all of this? Like why are you doing this? The last thing that I'll say is, what is the outcome? Like, where are you wanting to go in the end? Like, what does success look like once this is all said
That's a
and done?
key one. Yes, very much so. Yes, I completely agree. Mikhail, let's bring you back into this. What are your thoughts? Yeah.
Here, I actually want to repeat my our thoughts from the previous topic. The QA team needs to be included into the knowledge sharing, into information sharing process as early as possible. Okay, if the QA team does not get added at the start of the project, if it gets added at a later stage, again, it needs to be it needs to receive the requirements, access to all information sources, to all communication channels, etc. In order to be able to understand what needs to be tested, what are the scenarios, to create test coverage as soon as possible, and to start executing tests and finding issues. And if it actually implies that requirements are well documented, and okay, in reality, sometimes they are not quite well documented, and in that case, the QA team needs to work with the stakeholders to extract knowledge from them, to write test scenarios based on what they have extracted.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think touching on that, that I think also defines not just within the QA team, but for the collective project or product, roles and responsibilities. For example, as I said, as the QA team don't understand, let's say, the requirements, they need to be able to go to the project manager or the product owner or the business analyst to liaise with them to ensure that they have access to that additional information and ensure that obviously the user requirements are updated and maintained as well for common clarity. Because if a tester understands it, because they've had a discussion with a BA, that doesn't mean to say that a developer's going to. Because if they haven't updated the user requirements, they're still going to build it in the way that they think it works. So again, just that roles and responsibilities, you've got that common understanding, and again, cohesiveness coming back. So okay, Taras, let's bring you in. Additional thoughts from you?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with everything that here. On a higher level, I would say it is really crucial to have your goal set. Like we don't want just to introduce QA processes for any kind of reason, but we want to know where we want to end up with that. What's the goal? What's the purpose? What's the success criteria? How do you know if it's helping us, if it's adding some value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I think you really have to know your context. So what's your application? What are your processes, the development processes? What's your team? How is the communication, going between all the parties involved? Because a lot of times I've seen that basically there's an effort to introduce and to build some QA processes, but the team or the individuals doing that are taking just some template they've had with the previous experience and applying that onto this specific project without diving into the details.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it doesn't work well because, there's the different context every time with every team, with every product, with everything that's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is on a higher level, right?
Yep.
On the lower levels, yeah, definitely everything that's said, and I think communication is really crucial. Like you need to know who's responsible for what, who's the knowledge keeper of important knowledge, and everything is based on the communication, right? Because if you build things from the scratch, you need to know who's doing what and where you can get some help in your activities.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Just a few other additional ones from my side. Some of these may be outside of the control of the testing team, but collaboratively they will need to input into these. For example, the testing environments that, as I say, the testers will work with, they may be predefined as part of the overall strategy of the project, but the testers need to ensure they understand which environments they're going to work in and why, and obviously have the access for those. In addition to that, obviously defining test coverage to ensure that obviously when you're obviously progressing your corresponding releases, you've got a common understanding again with regards to what coverage is going to be required and acceptable for a client, as well as obviously the organization that you're working for. And again, this one may be outside of the control. Defect reporting, bug reporting tools. Again, it may be industry standard. It may be one that's specifically required for this particular project. But again, it should be clearly understood by each of the stakeholders on the project as to how that's actually going to work and how each of the roles will work within those corresponding areas. So just a few additional ones to bring in there, guys.
That's a good point, and it goes back to what we were all saying before, and what you pointed out, Bruce, about it being a common language. That bug reporting, being able to have those metrics, really does state to different people what this means and where we are. So
Yes, yeah, okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay. Let's move on, say, to our third as a topic. Okay, Taras, we haven't started with you first, so we'll start with you this time. Okay. What should be considered when putting together a QA team, a QA team structure for a project?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors to be considered here, right? Because first of all, again, context is the word of the day for me. You need to know your context. You need to know what kind of project is this, what domain. You need to know some how is the communication built, what tech stack is used, what technologies is used. that the team, work in Scrum and Kanban on any other kind of, methodology, right? So everything needs to be taken into an account for this for the team to be the most efficient, right? But basically, you want to have like if you're talking about the team in general, right? So there's different approaches how to build a team. Like you say, there's approach where you have to have a specific ratio. Let's say we have a number of developers, so we want to have a number of QAs and test automation engineers. There's also another approach that's more used in the shift left strategy, where like where the testing is being done by the dev team as well, and the like manual. So there's no manual test automation engineers. There's only a test consultant who helps the dev team to create, the strategy, to create the testing artifacts, and to set up the testing process and do it as well, right? So different approaches to that. From experience I've had, these approaches can work beautifully, but again, you just cannot follow blindly, and you need to adapt, and you need to make those processes flexible and basically change those processes and those approaches according to what you have in your context. Ideally, like if I would go and build a QA team, so like logically you want to have people that have great expertise, right, in the domain that you're working with, the tech stack, with tool chain, people that are good with communication and soft skills. That's a big one, because like sure, we work with technologies, right, and you have to know your technologies and your tools to be efficient, but you're still working with human beings, and you have to be capable of doing that efficiently and in a pleasant way, right? So to keep it short, lots of factors need to come together to have a great QA team, an efficient one.
Okay, just to as a pin on one of those particular areas, domain experience for me is extremely important, especially where the domain is niche. So it is always worthwhile having a domain expert on the corresponding team. However, that said, I also would suggest, where possible, unless it is extremely niche, it is good to have somebody that has no experience in that domain. Why would I say that? Well, because that particular individual doesn't have any expectations, and as such, they'll be saying, "But why? But why? But why?" That way, you will end up as a tester, because testers, apologies to the people in the room, are sometimes considered, they like to get 100% accuracy. Yes, they do. To that end, a tester is going to turn around and challenge if they don't understand. That way, you will get a much better solution collectively by having someone that doesn't understand the domain. Yeah. Just a thought. I say it doesn't necessarily work in all domains, but just a thought process. Okay, Mikhail, let's bring you in. Additional thoughts from you on this particular topic?
Yes. Another thing I'd like to add here is that it is crucial to enable everyone in the team with tools and means to start working as soon as possible. And for that purpose, it is good first to establish communication channel within the team, though the team may be participating in other communication channels, in a general channel, project wide channel with developers, etc. But in any case, the team, if there are if there are two people, they will QAs will communicate with each other on their daily tasks. So it's best to have this communication channel as soon as possible, and to have mock-ups, some prepared formats for test documentation, that is checklists or test cases, bug reports, unless there are already some examples prepared by the project team beforehand. Reports, again, setting the format of reports, which is informative on one hand and not too time consuming on the other hand, and making sure that the entire team is familiar and knows what to do, how to work with these templates. So that's what I would add.
Okay, thank you very much. Last but by no means least, Jessica, any additional thoughts from you on this one?
Yes. One thing I would like to add in is adding in either paths of aggression and milestones, giving them a target to reach. Always incentivizes the testers, the QA team, and sets expectations going forward. It also allows them to think of themselves in, this is where I am right now. This is where I can go. Gives them sort of a dream. I've worked with so many manual testers that started out saying, hey, I'm just a manual tester, but giving them this incentive to try for other things and to look for different things because this is what I expected of them. Generally made them into automation engineers or SDDTs. And some of them even went on to be front-end developers with that technical expertise, very much what you were saying, Bruce, because they had the domain knowledge and were put in scenarios where they were the person that was kind of like the odd man out a little bit. And the first time they asked why, it made the room just go silent, go, what? So it really does bring a whole kind of different energy when you, again, something that seems simple, but really will shift the narrative for the team.
Okay, thank you. Just a couple of additional points from my side. First one, I stress this with a caveat. Yeah. Normally, rule of thumb when you are trying to look at, say, a team size of testers, for example, is usually it's for every developer that you've got on there. Sorry, for every 2.5 developers you have on the team, then you should have a tester. Yeah. However, herein lies the caveat part. Where you have a very large user interface or multiple interfaces, obviously that could expand to a one-to-one relationship. So there's no one size fits all, but as a general rule of thumb, that's something to think about for our audience. Okay. In addition to that, from my perspective, we've talked about domain experience and not having domain experience. To add value there, I would also extend that where you've got very experienced people and as they maybe less experienced people. Why? There's a good rationale on that. First one, from a client space perspective, well, cost management. If you've got a very expensive resource and you've got a very cheap resource, then collaboratively, the overall blend rate is good. However, by the same token, newer resources, more junior resources are generally a lot more hungry. Yeah. And as such, they will strive to give you a lot more. So don't underestimate junior-based resources because they are very hungry to learn and give you 150% in some instances. So that blend should always be considered when you are putting together a team. Where people have worked together before, this is obviously a good starting position as well because you know they work well. Yeah. But again, just some additional thoughts for our people that are watching this as well. Okay, guys, let's move on to our next, say, topic matter. What have we got today? Okay, wonderful one. I love these ones. So, where should we start? Let's start with the lady in the room, Jessica. What are the most common issues that occur on a project for the QA team, and how do you try to avoid them?
Ooh, I don't know if we have this much time. I would say
No client names or people's names. Let's just keep it generic. Yeah.
I think a lot of the times it really does devolve into communication, expectations that were not verbalized by anyone, but were, have been built up over time due to either just having pride in what you started on. And it's just like, oh, I'm very, very close to this. But unfortunately, it wasn't relayed to the rest of the team. Or I hate to say it, but it gets into kind of like a hierarchical situation as well, where you have people who are like, well, this team is above this team when we're all a team, sort of thing. And it's perception that can kill the vibe in any project or product that's being built. And to avoid those, it really does go back to how you communicate, how often you communicate, and being open to collaboration. You said before that a more senior person and a junior person can collaborate together. They can also learn from each other, and having that relationship is very, very poignant for everyone going forward. A lot of the times you'll have where there are just conversations and situations that have come out and you're just like, hey, I never would have thought of that because blah. And that doesn't always happen when you have the situation of, well, this team has priority, or that team has priority, or even that there's like jargon, or a way that the team already talks, and there's a new person coming in and they have no idea of the nature of things that are being said and or whatnot. Even acronyms. You'll have a lot of people who talk in acronyms and don't explain what they specifically mean or why they say this, or just different terms for it, and believe that, oh well, they're smart enough to figure it out, or just to go look for it. Take the time to kind of explain it to them. Give that extra minute. It's not going to take more than that, and if it does, then there needs to be a meeting, and that there's you should see that there's a problem right there. The communication just isn't where it should be. And lastly, I will say, if anyone comes in thinking that they're above anyone else on the team, they're fundamentally culture issues that need to be dealt with. So that is some of the common things, but recognizing them would be the best approach, and then setting a path forward.
Okay, it's very good. Just to jump on that very last one, I say bringing new members into a corresponding team is sometimes frowned upon. People don't like it because you've got an established team that's gelling. I say, and bringing in a new person, it can, well, you've got that storming and norming element there. But sometimes new blood can bring new ideas. So give a guy that comes into a team, as I say, a chance. Yes, obviously, if they are going to challenge too much, that could be a problem for the overall team. But new blood brings new ideas, and new ideas opens that idea to challenge. Well, why have you ever done that? Well, because it works, but this might work better. So it's collaborative again. Always look at ways to potentially improve as you go along. So, okay. Taras, let's bring you in. Additional thoughts from you, please.
Definitely. I agree with Jessica. I think communication is probably the reason number one that a lot of projects struggle. I would say that there's also like these process issues and issues related with technology, with tech stack, right? But I would say that issues related to technology doesn't happen very often. Mostly it's about it's communication and process. And by process, I mean, let's say strictly following agile framework too strictly, right? Being in being not flexible, or having every part of the process formalized, imposing metrics. Let's say we decide that every like QA engineer should have like 10 test cases written per week, and every test automation, 5 test scripts done by week, right? What I've observed is that as soon as these metrics of a performance are established, people start working towards those numbers. They are not interested in the value added. They are not interested in increasing the quality or anything else. They are interested in having that magic number by the end of the week, just because it like brings them peace, right? Okay, I'm good. I'm performing at the right level. And what happens next is, let's say we have this levels of hierarchy, right? There's a manager, like and so on, and like, or a QA lead takes these numbers. Look, we have done this number of test cases and test scripts per week. We're good, and these numbers go up the chain, and everyone's happy because the numbers keep increasing, or the numbers are in the right range, and everybody thinks we're good. We're having like a good quality, best quality, right? And that is just an illusion, right? Because those numbers do not correspond to an actual value added or an actual quality. We cannot confidently say that if we have those numbers met, we're good, right? So this is just an example of just strictly following a process and formalizing everything in the team. Regarding the technology issues, I've seen this happening not quite often, but there were cases where, let's say, someone from the project or from the team who has the power to make some decisions has heard some thought about that, like, say, BDD is cool, it's the way to go, and this person decides, okay, we need BDD everywhere throughout the project, and this goes from the top, and every level below just implements it because this is kind of like the decision of a top level. But this approach doesn't help anything. It doesn't add anything. It only creates issues. It only creates some overhead, right? But still, we have that because somebody who has the power to decide it decided it to do. Same goes with the tooling. Let's say someone decided that this specific tool is the way to go. We buy this tool, we buy a license for this tool, and now everybody on the project is forced to use it. But it, let's say, brings more issues and helps solving some issues, right? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Just to dive in there very quickly on those KPI metrics, because I've been there and it does make me smile, which is why I've got a huge grin on my face. For our audience sitting there wondering why, if you're hitting all your targets, and say, can it be a problem? Well, let's think about it. Okay, if you're pushing 5, as say, tests, as say, a day, but if none of them actually work, then that's a problem. Yeah. Secondly, if you're pushing 5 tests a day, but to achieve your overall test coverage, you need thousands, then obviously you're not actually getting anywhere near that. Yeah. So you need to temper it and review the situation with regards to the metrics. What have I got for my value for money? Yeah. What am I trying to achieve as a collective? Yeah. Just again, challenge, ask questions. Yeah, that's a tester's role, and obviously stakeholders' roles on projects to ensure and validate those types of things. Michael, let's bring you in again. Last but by no means least, additional thoughts from you on this topic.
There are some problems that maybe are somewhat out of control of a QA team, but such things as, again, absence of requirements or unclear, contradicting requirements may slow the process a bit because it may not allow to write some test scenarios or introduce risks that some test scenarios that are written turn out not wrong or incomplete later. Okay, in such cases, the QA team from its side may work with the stakeholders to find out how it must work, how it works, how it needs to be tested. And again, in this case, it requires collective effort, so that everyone in the team must work to find out how the product works and to add some input on which scenarios, which edge cases need to be added into the test coverage. And of course, the blockers with a test environment, but they are usually not beyond the control of the QA team.
Okay, thank you. One very short example from my side, I've seen this multiple times before, where a client may come to you where they bring their legacy system and they say, we are extremely disappointed. At the present point in time, our current coverage is low, and effectively we're constantly finding problems in live. Our regression testing takes weeks, and you start to have a discussion with them, and then you turn around and say, so how big is your AQA suite for your regression? AQA suite? What's an AQA suite? How long have you been live? Ooh, 3.5, 4 years, and you have no AQA suite? Okay, that might be one of the problems that you need to look at. Okay, always consider, say, when you are evolving your solution, you may not bring AQA in at the start. You may bring it in 6, 12 months later when you have stable features. But as your system grows, the more testing that is going to be needed by your manual testers. They need support from a good AQA testing team, or a tool that can ensure that it does the corresponding work. You can't expect your testers to just do more and more and more and more and still ensure quality. So I've seen that many, many times, I say, through my career. So just an additional thought there for our viewers. Okay, running out of time. So this last particular one, let's keep very, very short. Apologies, guys. At a high level, on a medium to large project, what would a 90-day testing plan look from start on a corresponding project? Mikhail, maybe we'll start with you. High level.
Well, yeah, understood. It is difficult to measure it in days with precision, but well, naturally it would contain the initial phase, the phase where of planning and preparation for
Yes.
testing, the actual test execution phase, and the phase of test closure, which may or may not include some steps for further support or preparation for further phases. So first phase would take maybe 20 to 30 days. It would involve meeting the stakeholders, establishing communication channels, planning roles and responsibilities of the QA team, of course, finding out the requirements, of course, ensuring that test environment is available and it is working, there are no blockers, preparing test data if it's needed, and starting to create test scenarios. Ideally, by the end of the preparation phase, that initial test coverage is created, it is approved with stakeholders, and the QA team is ready to proceed with the execution.
Okay.
Of course, automation may be and probably must be planned at this phase as well.
At least planned. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll leave that to you. So at the next stage, the test cases, the checklists, whichever it is, are executed. The team reports bugs, confirms bug fixes if they are ready, collects metrics. The metrics would be probably should be planned during the previous phase, and goes on to ensure everything is done, everything is covered, and reviews the test coverage as it goes. To usually it requires some adding some scenarios, steps, etc. on the way.
All right. Okay.
And the last phase would require analyzing the collected metrics, doing final end-to-end testing, final regression, release testing, and probably retrospective on what was good, what wasn't good, lessons learned, and
All right.
so something like that.
Okay. Thank you. That's fine. Jessica, let's bring you in on this one.
Quickly for me, it would be just analyzing. The only thing that I would add to what Michael was saying is just analyzing the information that was received from like regression testing and the bugs that were captured during testing, just to see where we could be better in the next iteration.
Okay. Taras, any additional thoughts from you on this one? Obviously from,
Yeah, again, I'm going to throw some automation flavor in it.
Yep.
Definitely like 90 days is a lot. Definitely a smoke suite. Definitely a framework. Nowadays, you can have as soon as the application is ready. So we have stable APIs and UIs. Nowadays, you can have a working skeleton of a framework in 2 days, and you can have a smoke suite like in 5 days. So it's a very fast, value added. So definitely smoke sanity suite and
Yep.
initial work on the regression suite.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. Only a couple of points from my side. Again, sticking my ex-project manager's hat on. People like to look at risk assessments before they do any kind of releases. So the thing I would say is, please don't forget those reports that are required for the managers that are going to need to see that test coverage, that effectively, okay, we've got 80% test coverage. This is the known defects that we've got. Are they acceptable or not before you progress anything to live? So that they've got that sanity check. So risk management is as an output from obviously the testing, but they can only do that with the statistics and the information that you guys provide. So that's the only other one I've got. Okay, that's us for today. Let's go to our audience. Haven't had any questions come through so far. However, if anybody has got any additional questions they would like to ask our speakers today, please feel free say to pop them through. Okay, just give them a minute. So whilst we're waiting for that, I would like to thank our speakers today, Jessica, Taras, and Michael, for their participation in this webinar. It's been very productive, and I hope our audience have enjoyed it as well. Very interesting topics, and interesting to see how people think as part of that. Okay, we have some questions coming through. All right. I'm going to need my glasses for this one. I do apologize, guys. Okay. Sometimes requirements are not defined well enough when the user story is sent to go for testing. Okay. Okay. Put my project management hat on that one. From my perspective, if you look at it from a linear-based perspective, the testers should ensure that they've got all that corresponding information. In the event that it's not, then I would argue that you need to obviously review that as an overall process-based perspective with the project to ensure that they've got what they need. Or alternatively, then the business analyst or product owner needs to refine those with the testers to ensure that they are ready to take into any sprint, or if it's a waterfall based approach, review that again to take it back. But let's bring in Mikhail on this one. What are your thoughts? Any additional comments from you? Given this
This is quite a widespread problem.
Yeah.
So it often is up to QAs to do some assumptions based on their expertise, on their knowledge of this product or of the general niche that it takes, and to suggest some test scenarios and approve them with stakeholders. It usually is maybe it may be quicker than asking the stakeholders to clarify what they want to see here.
Okay. All right. Taras, Jessica, any additional comments from you?
Yeah, so sadly, I would say that quality requirements, quality and full detail requirements are not encountered often. So you still have that process where you need to make some clarifications, right? So it's just part of the game. And basically, how you can deal with that, you can make some changes on the process level. And make some verbalizations of how we want our requirements to be before we start using them in a chain below, right? So that can help. But again, probably 2 projects out of 10 have everything great with requirements and not just documentation and all of that.
High. Yep.
But all the other, but everything else is just is chaos and Excel sheets and Google Sheets and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it happens, unfortunately. Projects, as I say, no one project is works the same way as another. Yeah, they are all different. Yeah, for our audience. Okay, we do have an additional question. However, I don't think we are going to be able to cover this because it's such a broad topic. The question is, how can you take the best advantage of AI in software testing processes without really integrating the AI tools into the projects for security reasons? We could talk for hours on this particular topic, so apologies guys. I'm not going to open that door because we have some webinars that we're coming up where we are going to talk about AI processes. However, for this particular one, there are AI tools out in the market that effectively do look at, say, creating test scenarios, as well as creating test scripts. They do exist. With regards to, say, manual testing, looking at this particular area, they can be integrated into the process and the day-to-day test execution of them. Without diving into any at a lower level, guys, apologies, we could be talking about that for hours, but there are ways to incorporate it in for both manual and for automation, but those will have to come as subsequent webinars from us. Apologies with regards to that. Okay. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Again, I would really like to thank, our audience as well as our speakers today. So thank you very much indeed for your time, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you, guys. All right. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice
Thank
one.
you.